So today guys, I want to present you a Bloody Maelstrom spell shredder build that absolutely shreds people. Unfortunately, it's gonna get nerfed very time soon, so after watching this you probably won't have that much time to enjoy it thoroughly, although I still do think that even after the nerf this build will be quite viable. Not that bursty as it is, but still very fun to play, very fast-paced, very good depending on how much Bloody Maelstrom will be nerfed. This build actually revolves around spamming Mortal Strikes as much as possible to get a Spell Shredder from your fireballs that you can shoot instantly by getting the Maelstrom weapon, and then consuming the Bloody Maelstrom with another Mortal Strike, just to get that big AoE attack off that below level 60 literally almost one-shots people. This is probably the build that I had most fun playing with, mainly because first of all I haven't seen that many people playing it, and I literally haven't seen anybody play it, so that's even better. And the other thing is that actually I love Mortal Strike, and I'm really glad that I finally was able to make Mortal Strike build work, although of course it's all because of the Bloody Maelstrom. So we basically build up our Maelstrom by spamming Mortal Strike and Hateful Strike. Hateful Strike, as you know probably, have reduced global cooldown, which means that we have very fast attacks that hit with both of our weapons thanks to Single-Minded Fury. And with this we can basically shoot out Fireball after 2 attacks, which is Mortal Strike, Hateful Strike, Fireball, and then the next Mortal Strike, and repeat rotation, and the next Mortal Strike then is powered by the Bloody Maelstrom. And we literally just spam this simple cast sequence macro under one button to literally obliterate people that you can currently see on the screen. If it was actually before TBC release, I wouldn't actually call it a leveling build, due to the fact that our full potential gets unlocked on level 45, where we get cooldown reduction for Mortal Strike. But now after TBC release, the actually bracket 60 to 69 is a little bit more exciting, thanks to that we have a little bit more health and the damage is kind of tuned down, so it's not one big burst fest, even for a build like this. Before max level on the last bracket, the Bloody Maelstrom can crit like for around 1k depending on what you roll and stuff like that, so it's pretty damn good, especially that the full rotation and the Mortal Strike is packed with additional effects, because when we click Mortal Strike we proc Fire Blast from the War Mage, we proc Taste for Blood Capstone, we proc Elemental Shredder. Literally from pressing one button we already proc 3 things, and if we have Bloody Maelstrom up, which we will be quite often, and it's a 5th attack that is the most powerful of the one. So on the last bracket, 60 to 69, usually Mortal Strike crits for like around 500, then Fire Blast like 250, Elemental Shredder and Taste for Blood Capstone makes it like 1000, and then Bloody Maelstrom is another 1000, which means that with single click we do like 2k damage. Of course if everything crits, but we're talking only about the maximized damage. To top it all off, like I said, it's a very fast playstyle due to the fact that we will be using Hateful Strike constantly, and with reduced global cooldown it just flows so freaking fast. And it doesn't matter if you press Mortal Strike or Hateful Strike, it will actually consume the Bloody Maelstrom and deal some extra nice damage, and it's an AoE to top it off. The actual scaling of this build may not be that straightforward, because Mortal Strike and all that other kind of stuff is like physical, Taste for Blood, but on the other hand we also use Fireball, Fire Blast, and Bloody Maelstrom's elemental damage, which is our most hitting ability. So that means that we want to maximize our spell power and elemental damage, although we still want to go strength, because yeah, Mortal Strike is pretty powerful, and actually going intellect equaled in loss of DPS, so the gearing on Ascension is not really that straightforward. Anyways, this is a leveling build, so most of the time you will have heirlooms, which you should use. Just go for strength, And if not, just get as much strength, spell power thing as much as possible. Try to get a hit cap, and of course the rest pump into the critical strike chance. For the talents, everything that increases your fire damage is welcome. All the crit chance, of course. Spell crit damage is welcome as well. As for skills, you know, heals, interrupts, stuns, defensives, everything. After level 60, Blade Storm is also very nice. Even though it doesn't deal that much damage, it allows us to actually free off from roots and stuff like that. And also, if you use it preemptively, for example, prevent some CC, very useful. Talents that increase all scores of damage, for example, Frozen Power. Dual Specialization or Mastery that increases your offhand damage. Pretty mandatory, but we don't really have that much space to fit it in cards. From like legendary ones, Legacy of the Arcanist is pretty nice. Because that will mean extra meteor and layer of damage on top of everything. Overheating strikes are also great, as we will be striking with both weapons. It's gonna proc quite a lot of times. Of course, all of the procs like Death Bringer, Death Healer, things like that, all increase damage done by 3%, will contribute to the damage dealt very nicely. Also, when you're finally on level 45, get improved mortal strike and reduce global cooldown, not the cooldown, but the cooldown from 6 seconds to 4 seconds. Also, do remember to slap on it past immortal strikes on mystic enchants to reduce it up to 3 seconds. Then it will allow you to use freely that one button macro for faster build up and damage. But all in all, pretty fun build. I just hope that the nerf hammer will not hit it that hard. Allow me to enjoy one of my favorite builds. So let's get back to the setup. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, let's explain how to set up this build. So you basically start off with Fireball, Fire Blast, Rend, and Charge. There is an option, like I said before, to level up as a caster up until level 45. In that case, you just replace Rend with either Arcane Intellect for more damage or like Fizzle for some interrupts. Other things have to stay. Charge, of course, for mobility. Fireball are mandatory things. As for the skill cards, we take Mortal Strike, Single-Minded Fury, and Hateful Strike, plus Frostbrand Weapon. Those are like 3 mandatory things. Weapon Enhancement is optional, but we're going to get into that later. Mortal Strike and Hateful Strike, a very nice combo that can be spammed constantly with some talents. Single-Minded Fury reduces its damage by 5%, but allows us to hit with both weapons. And this is going to be important because we need to stack that Maelstrom weapon as fast as possible. That's why we need so many hits. Divine Protection is just a defensive optional. You can take more mobility, for example, if you want, but I like to have that extra defensive layer. As for the weapon enhancement, I love Frostbrand, mainly because it provides utility and damage as well. We'll reduce global cooldown on a Hateful Strike and pretty powerful Mortal Strikes, which both hit with 2 weapons. We will be applying those Frostbrands like crazy, so that literally means perma 30% slow effect on enemies, and I don't have to spend my global cooldowns for hamstrings or anything like that. You can of course take Spell Infused Weapon for extra damage, I don't know, Flame Tongue to have more spell power and extra damage on top of that. Wind Fury could work also, but like I said, Frostbrand, it's a very nice slow, and on top of that, with extra talents, we can actually increase damage dealt on the target with Fire, Frost, and Nature damage spells and schools. So yeah, with some luck and Mystic Enchant setup, we literally can increase this even better, even more. Overpower, lastly, is optional. I like to actually level with a melee method rather than caster. So I take it, especially that even after level 40, when you don't get your Mortal Strike cooldown reduction, Overpower is pretty useful for the rotation. So if you decide to go caster, just replace it with some Blink, for example, or some CC, whatever you feel like it. For the talent cards, we take Maelstrom Weapon at level 20. This way we generate stacks, and on full stacks we can instant shoot a fireball, so that's mandatory. And after we spend Maelstrom, we get Bloody Maelstrom, which will literally allows our Mortal Strike to deal extra elemental damage up to 6 targets, so it's an AoE, very powerful hit that is basically bread and butter of this build. It does state in the tooltip that the stacks do not increase by 50%, but only 5% against players, but still, its damage modifier is, I think, a little bit too big, but this build, I think this build will still be viable after the nerfs to the Bloody Maelstrom. It's just not going to be so bursty as it is now. Other than that, we need improved Mortal Strike to have that cooldown reduction and extra healing reduction effects. Battle Mage to have that extra layer of damage with automatic fire blasts every 4 seconds. And the rest of the toolkit is literally optional. I like to level with Overpower, so I take Info to Kill and Tasteful Blood. Those 2 talents actually work as an extra layer of damage. Even though you won't be applying Rend manually, you can either do it by rolling Whirlwind and Blades of Blood, then after every charge you will apply Rends, all Rends literally. This is very good. Or you can just simply roll Juggernaut, Arms Warrior talent, which literally makes your Mortal Strike after a charge also apply Rend. Then it's extra damage, and you don't have to waste time to click Rend. Elemental Rend, of course, applies additional Rend on top of your default one, and the Spell Shredder makes it that if you apply that Rend, or just proc it by the Info to Kill capstone, the Tasteful Blood capstone, and Mortal Strike actually procs it constantly, then you will have a Spell Shredder buff, and with additional Spell Shredder, it's just an extra layer of damage when you use Mortal Strike, and you will be spamming those like crazy, so it hits pretty nicely. When it comes down to the Mystic Enchants, I go for more spell power from the Lunar Guidance. I take things, of course, like Wizard Mortal Strike, because you want to have as much spell power as possible. There's a debate to actually use Mental Quickness, but for leveling builds, I don't really like to take them. Mostly because Heirloom gear and even like standard leveling gear don't really have that much spell power combined with strength. So for me, for leveling, it's kind of a wasted point. That's why I don't take it. On top of that, I've got Frozen Power. Like I said, increases damage over Frostfire and nature damage dealt to targets affected, oh my god, by your Frostbite by 2%. So 6% in total. We have the same talent available for rolling. So if we happen to do this, we have extra 15% elemental damage on our target, which is great. And then in the beginning, I use 3 Anger Management until I roll it. If you don't happen to roll a Rage bar, extra Rage talent, you will actually need both those and the one from the talents, because you will be spamming those Mortal Strikes, and they are pretty expensive. To top it off, I take Mbemba Effect to increase fire damage, Hot-Headed to increase fire and physical, and Wildfire to increase extra fire, as fire also counts for elemental damage and also increases damage of things like Fireball and Fire Blasts. Quick note, I did try this build with all elemental shredders and full rotation, but actually it's just a waste of time because the main source of damage is still Bloody Maelstrom, so I kinda wanted to focus on fire with this, just to maximize damage in quick succession, just to be even more bursty. So I hope you will have fun with this until you can. Like I said before, this Bloody Maelstrom has already been reported as a bug, that it needs some PvP reduction, so probably it will be nerfed, I'm pretty sure of it. But we're gonna see for how much. But I still do even think that after the nerf, this will be playable. Not so OP, of course, but still playable. So if you like Elemental Shredder, go for it. Just expect to be nerfed. Hope you will have fun, and take care, and see you later.